What's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another therapy session of the Dawgs podcast. And by this point, hopefully you are numb and you don't need this as much as maybe you did 2 months ago. But either way, we are happy to be here for you. Just Josh and myself, holiday season, busy coming to you virtually. Justin will hopefully have him back next week. He's being dad tonight. So just Josh and myself here to get you guys through what was, I want to say, another long Sunday, but in retrospect, in all reality, yesterday went about as well for the Browns as you could hope, considering the season that we're having. In terms of just a couple things off the top of my head, I didn't want DTR to accidentally start to play well and us be fooled into bringing him back next year. Don't have to worry about that. Giants pulled off a miracle win against the Colts, gets us up into the top 3 draft, which we're going to talk about today because the game's not worth it. So it went pretty well for the Browns, all things considered, as well as it can go when you lose 20-3 at home in your season finale at home. So we're going to get into everything, though. Before we do, remember, if you want to get your intros and your voicemails on the show, and this is even more pertinent as we turn the page into the offseason after next week, getting your thoughts on what you want the Browns to do in free agency and in the draft. If there's anybody you have your eye on, if you want to get your thoughts on what we're going to do in terms of the draft and free agency, you head to the dogspodcast.com, tap leave voicemail, get your thoughts on the show. And we love getting your voicemails, interacting with you guys, answering your questions. It really helps us get through the offseason in terms of content. So it's a big help to us, and we enjoy hearing from you guys. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Make sure you tap the notification bell so you don't miss any of the content that we're putting out. You don't want to miss any of the stuff we're going to do for the draft and free agency and whatnot. As we put this season behind us, and we actually have something fun to look forward to, because I've never wanted a Brown season to be done so fast in my life, so we can finally start talking about something fun. If you want to find us on any social media, just search at the Dawgs Podcast. You can also just listen to the show if you prefer. Just search at the Dawgs Podcast, blah, 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 on Apple, Spotify, and Google. And lastly, if you're looking for more Dawgs content, head to jointhedawgs.com, become an official Dog Pack member on the Patreon page, get access to the private Discord, play fantasy football with us, get to be a part of after-hours episodes and preview episodes. It's just a good time for everybody involved. So if you want extra content, it really helps the show out, and we're really trying to grow that. So if you have ideas on things you want offered in the Dog Pack that we don't currently offer that you think would make it cooler, let us know. We're always looking for ways to make that better for you guys. Speaking of fantasy football, I know I'm in the championship in one of our leagues. Josh, you were in the championship in 2. How's it looking for you in year 2?
I'm bringing home 2 wins, baby. I took them both down.
So tonight's game is important. This is the showdown.
Yeah.
So what really cost me is I entered the playoffs. I had the bye week this year, and I entered the playoffs with Kenneth Walker, David Montgomery, and they both went out on IR. And then I picked up Jerome Ford because he was almost always good for a garbage time touchdown or some catches. Gets hurt on his 4th carry of the game. Got me 2 points.
Yep.
So all things considered, the fact that I have a puncher's chance tonight, I'm up 9 currently. He has Jahmyr Gibbs. I have Sam Laporta. So if Laporta can put up a 20 spot, and they don't play Gibbs a ton since they're not playing for a ton, maybe I got a shot. Again, I feel like I need a tiny miracle, but I got a puncher's chance to bring it home and for the Dawgs Podcast to get 3 titles in our redraft league. So we'll see what happens. Chat, do you think I have a shot? I know it's a slim shot, but I'm not going down without a fight. I'm just be punching all night long. Put some money on the game to make it even more entertaining. So we'll see how it goes. But again, if you want to play fantasy football with us next year, talks on a big money league potentially next year. There's a couple dynasty leagues. You want to jump in that Discord and talk draft and free agency with all these guys all year round. That's jointhedawgs.com. Become an official Dog Pack member.
Real quick, Gage Tucker's in the chat. He's in Justin's redraft league, and he just said in here he's in the championship in that league. So Gage in the chat, drop it in. Are you winning in that league right now? Because I can't pull it up on my phone at the moment. But are you winning? Or are you down? What do you need to happen tonight? Just like Blake said for his league, what do you need to pull this one out? So we'll be waiting for that to come in the chat.
And, before I forget, hopefully you all had a good Christmas. I forgot it was Christmas already because I was so down about yesterday. But I digress. We push forward. I want to get into the game, and I obviously want to talk draft. The big news yesterday was that the Giants won. We moved up in the draft, and so we're going to talk about that for sure. So Big Ben, or not Big Ben, Big Ben. We're going to definitely talk about the draft, so don't go anywhere. Before we get into everything, let's play Kenny Mack's voicemail, get his thoughts, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yo, guys, it is Kenny Mack, and happy holidays, happy New Year's. Hopefully, I don't have a lisp. This season can't get over fast enough. I don't know about you guys, but you feel like the season kind of it never happened, or they never wanted it to go anywhere. It's like they'd taken the season off. Feel like almost they took the season off starting last year after they clinched against the Jets. I mean, speaking of the Bengals, like they should have played all their players last year in that last game. I don't know. You're not committed to Flacco. You should have just played him. You would have been better off for that playoff game. Hindsight's 2020, though. Right, Baker Bros. And speaking of the Jets, I mean, that old ball coach, Herm Edwards, you remember him? Like, he'd say, "Hey, you play to win the game." Well, guess what? The Browns don't, and playing DTR out like this just breeds a loser mentality. Losing out like this and gaining a pick, there's no confidence in this team anymore. And, you get a new offense. Cooper's not interested. He knows Deshaun can't read a defense. Nobody plays in the preseason. I mean, we were cooked from the get-go. We were cooked from the Dallas game, and it just showed the entire year. There's just a lack of effort everywhere, a lack of passion. It's been a tough watch, and it's another week, another job interview, and no one's getting hired. I'm out.
I'm right there with Kenny in terms of the season's just blah. I actually put it before the game was even over yesterday. I said, can this season be done? What a waste of my life. And that's how I felt yesterday. Just I don't know if I've ever felt this way about a Browns season. Maybe the closest I've ever been was I think it was 2008, the year after we went 10-6 and missed out on the playoffs. But we were bringing back Derek Anderson and Kellen Winslow and Braylon Edwards and all this good stuff. And then I think we won 4 games that year, 4-12 or something like that. Maybe that season. But even then, it was like, if you watch the Browns that year, you kind of got an idea. Like, I don't know if Derek Anderson's going to make all these throws for his whole career. And I don't know if Braylon Edwards going to keep catching all these passes. I feel like there's a little bit of writing on the wall. We were legitimate contenders. We had a guy on X say, I can't believe I told my wife at the beginning of the season that we were going to go to the Super Bowl. And I've said the same thing. I was telling my wife all offseason, like, the Browns are going to be so good this year. We're going to actually be really good and worth watching. And it's been unbelievable in terms of just a total failure on every person in the organization. It's just been tough to watch. And like I said, I checked out after they set in 2-3 months ago for me.
Yeah. About as hard to watch as our stream right now, because I'm quickly trying to get all of this. Our video feeds froze on my end, so I'm struggling right now. So sorry everybody watching this. I think I'm just going to leave it. I don't even care what it looks like. The Browns suck. Our technology sucks. What else can I say? It's I'm all flabbergasted over here trying to do this. You keep talking. You keep talking about how shitty this team is and how disappointing, and the way that we're, I don't know, rolling out the worst quarterback maybe in NFL history.
I don't know if I'll give him that. What really sucks is I don't like dunking on him, because by all accounts he's everything you want in a player on your team and in a quarterback in terms of preparation. He puts in the work. He seems like a just an all-around good dude and a great teammate. The one thing he lacks is talent. The talent required to play at this level. He's bad. And we put out a Facebook or Instagram or whatever post it was last week that said he might be the worst quarterback we've ever started. And I was like, no way. We've watched Deshaun Kaiser. We've watched all these guys play. He's not the worst one. And then I watched this game and I thought to myself, this guy's Deshaun Kaiser level bad. This is as bad as it gets. He has 1 touchdown to, I think, 11 interceptions.
10. It's the I think it was Football Forever account on Twitter put it out today, and Instagram. They said that it is the worst touchdown to interception ratio in NFL history. So yeah, it's pretty bad.
And it's just, it's like I said, I don't like dunking on the guy, but it's bad. And there's no way that they can make the change to DTR and continue to stay with him and tell us that we think he gives us a good chance to win. There's no way you watch it. You don't have the worst touchdown to interception ratio in the history of the NFL, and your coach tell you give us the best chance to win. Why? I understood why they switched from Jameis. He was just turning the ball over, and we were still losing games. But at this point, just go with Bailey Zappi. If you don't want to roll with Jameis, just go do something different. It's gotten to the point where it's unwatchable. I mean, it's like I'd rather just rake my eyes out than sit and watch 3.5 hours of Browns offensive football. And somebody said he wouldn't start for Kent State. That is not hyperbole. Like I 100% believe he wouldn't start on a majority of like major Division I college football teams.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I know he started at UCLA, but it's not like he was a top tier quarterback in the country at UCLA. So like if you put DTR at Ohio State right now, Will Howard would still start over him. Julian Sayin would probably start over him. You know, if you put him on Oregon, Dylan Gabriel's starting over him.
Oh yeah.
So we have a guy who's not good enough to play at the big time college football programs starting for us right now. That's saying something.
I was talking to somebody on social media today, and I said pretty much the same thing, that the hardest thing watching DTR play for me to believe is that this is a second-year NFL player, and I can't hardly believe that he ever played in college. I can't believe that he was drafted. Like this looks like an undrafted guy that a team just took a flyer on, or bounced around. They said, well, we brought you in for a tryout during the summer. We got injuries. We'll just bring you back to finish out the season or something like that. But man, not good.
I liked on the broadcast, they kept talking about, he's good with his legs. They should be using his legs more. And all I could think to myself was, he's not running, because if he does, he won't make it through this game. He can't take hits. He's too small. If he wants to finish this game, he's in his best interest to not run, designed or scramble. Like his best bet's just to get rid of the ball and not take hits, or else he's not going to make it through a full game. And I know that Bailey Zappi's not the future here. He's not going to be on this team next year. I don't think, and with the exception of Deshaun Watson, only because of the money situation, none of these QBs are going to be on the roster next year. Jameis is going to be gone. DTR is going to be gone. Bailey Zappi is going to be gone. There will be 3 new quarterbacks on this roster next year. So at this point, just let Bailey Zappi play, just so it's at least worth watching. The only reason you're not at this point is because you have crept up into that number 3, into the top 3 right now in the draft, and you don't want to pull the Giants and jeopardize that. Winning is worse than losing right now this season. So you start DTR so you can go ahead and lose this game. I guess my own thing is, even if you started with Bailey Zappi, you're going to lose this game. The Ravens are playing to try to win the division. We're playing just to get done with it. Thank God the NFL moved it to a Saturday, so we don't have to wait till Sunday for this season to be done.
Yeah.
But yeah, the game was just, and then losing Jerome Ford was, I mean, our on our preview, I said, let's get the ball to Jerome Ford a bunch. Let's take the ball out of DTR's hands. And let's just, let him run around. And even if he has a bunch of negative runs, he's at least good chance he's going to at least break a couple, And I was slightly biased. I knew I was going to start in fantasy. So I was trying to speak it into existence for the championship. And then he goes down after 6 runs. Just tough. One thing that was funny is that Jerry Jeudy had 17 targets or 18 targets.
That's insane, man. Like, wow.
18 targets. The team had 43. He had almost 50%. It's like they overcorrected from the week before when he only had a couple of targets and 20 yards. They're like, we're going to get this guy the ball today. And it kind of sucks because he kind of had a rough game.
He dropped some.
Statistically, he had an okay game, 12 catches, 94 yards. Like, I mean, that looks good in the box score. But if you watch a game, like, he struggled. A couple drops, a couple penalties. It was not Jerry Jeudy's best game in terms of like an overall effort.
No, it definitely wasn't. I mean, like you said, the end result looks nice, but throughout the game, mean, people were posting on social media like, catch the effing ball, dude. I mean, he dropped some and they were key situations. It was to pick up a first down here or move the sticks, whatever it might be, and he's dropping the pass. And, you know, that's tough when you've got a quarterback who's struggling like DTR. He's no good. And when he does actually get the ball to his guy, you drop it. It's rough. But I wanted to talk real quick about that. Did you see the clip I posted on social media? If anybody hasn't seen it, go to Twitter or Facebook, wherever. The one play from late in the fourth quarter yesterday, the Browns are trying to set up a screen pass. And it is hilarious. The entire sequence of events during the play is so funny because first it's Jamari Thrash starts running in motion and DTR saying, get back, get back, get back. So he has to go and reset where he's at. And then as soon as he's moving, Judy's coming in motion. And Michael Woods is out on the perimeter waving his arms in the air like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And then we call the play, drop back, screen set up on the right, DTR fakes left, throws right, and right between two linemen out there blocking who turn around and go, where's the running back? But Pierre Strong went to the left. And it's just, this is week 17. This isn't week 1 or 2. It's not like we've just implemented this new offense and we're still trying to work out the kinks. We've been doing this all season. How do we still not know what we're doing? And it really makes me question the coaching staff overall. It makes me question the players. What are they doing at practice? Like in meetings, how do you not know this stuff? I feel like there's so much blame to go around for everybody for this total shit show we're watching, and I don't know how they fix it quick enough.
Well, I'll say this, not to make excuses for him, but all the people you just talked about on that play, a month ago, they're not supposed to be playing. Pierre Strong isn't supposed to be in the game ever for us, really. It's supposed to be Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford. Michael Woods isn't supposed to be playing ever. It's supposed to be Cedric Tillman. DTR is definitely not supposed to be in the game. It's supposed to be Deshaun Watson or Jameis Winston. Like, this is the kind of stuff that happens when you're playing with third and fourth string players across your roster. Like, you're going to get, there's a reason they're third and fourth string players. You know, it's not just physical ability, it's mental mistakes. I mean, there's a reason. We talked to the wide receiver in the preseason, and he said, everybody's physically gifted. The game's 90% mental. And that's like the difference between, being good and bad or good and great is the mental ability to process information. The Browns playbook is this thick. These guys who haven't been playing all year, so they haven't been getting live reps, so they're just watching in practice, and all of a sudden you're putting them in there, and they got, essentially, we don't practice. The NFL, there's no practice time almost throughout a week, and you're saying, okay, here's the game plan, here's all these plays, learn it in a week. Now, you're saying they're professionals, they should have the game, the playbook memorized. That's easy to say, but when you're fifth on the depth chart and the playbook's this thick, you probably don't have I don't know.
Oh, that makes total sense. I understand all that, but it would be different. For me, it's we've seen this all year, whether it was the starters or the fourth string guys. It doesn't matter. There's been miscommunications, confusion. Guys just don't know what they're doing out there. Joel Bitonio, after the game yesterday, was pretty much just saying it's pretty hard to win whenever you can't execute on the field, whenever we're not making plays, whenever we have all these penalties. I mean, they said on the broadcast, Browns lead the league in pre-snap penalties for the second year in a row. So it was last year, and now it's this year. It's a theme that it's killing us. Those pre-snap penalties kill us, especially whenever your offense struggles to get yards in the first place, and then you take them away. You put us in a hole immediately on a drive. There's just nothing we can do. It's pathetic.
The pre-snap penalties are inexcusable.
Right.
It's to lead the league 2 years in a row with pre-snap penalties. I mean, I'm gonna, as we move into the offseason, I'm gonna start thinking about like things I want to see for next year, because even though I want them to bring Kevin back again, at least sitting here today, I do still. But next year, like, we can't lead the league in pre-snap penalties 3 years in a row. It's inexcusable. You just, especially, like I've mentioned this before, we're not a roster with 19-year-old kids. We're not a young roster. This isn't 2016, 2017, when we were all a bunch of first and second year players. This roster is littered with veterans, guys who've been in the league for multiple years now. And we lead the league in pre-snap penalties 2 years in a row. It's inexcusable. It's poor preparation. It's poor focus. And it's hard to stay focused when you have 3 wins. you go through the motions in practice, you go through the motions in the games because it doesn't matter. And this is the result of it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And one of the big arguments, at least for me, whenever they had made the decision a few weeks back to bench Jameis Winston and move forward with DTR, for me is like, well, I was having fun watching our wide receivers develop and see, okay, we've got something in this guy or that guy. I want to see what Thrash can do. And I knew as soon as DTR took the field, we're not going to see anything from any wide receivers. And then yesterday comes, and Jerry Jeudy was the only wide receiver on the team to have more than one catch in the game. That was it. The only other person.
He's the only wide receiver that had more than one target.
Oh, was it targets too?
No. Oh,
okay.
No. Okay, I was looking at the wrong thing. You're right.
Okay,
You're
yeah.
right. I almost just had an aneurysm.
But I mean, it was Akins, and then I think it was Pierre Strong, and then everybody else was 1. He threw the ball 47 freaking times, and you can't complete more than one pass to more than one receiver? I mean, it's just, like, what do we do with Elijah Moore? Is Jamari Thrash any good? I have no idea. Is Michael Woods? It makes it so hard to evaluate.
We talked a lot about, like, if Jeudy should be upset that they moved off Winston because he was, having such a great season with him in that 7-game stretch or whatever it was. If anybody should be upset, it should be Elijah Moore.
Yeah.
Elijah Moore was like, we were starting to talk about, like, hey, he looks like he's like a low end 2, a really high end 3. Like, maybe this guy's a good guy to keep around on a family friendly contract, team friendly contract. And he can be a good asset for you. He doesn't drop the ball. He's open a lot. And ever since he had one catch for 1 yard. And that was, I don't even know, that yard, I'm pretty sure if they actually really cared, it would be stat corrected to 0, because I remember it was on the sideline, was about 2 minutes to go in the half, and he threw a 0-yard pass. It was 3rd and 10, I believe, after that. So the fact they gave him a yard is that's a stat, that's a correction. I specifically remember this because I sent a message in the Discord that said, why did we throw a 0-yard pass? Why is that even a route? Why is that a route?
Ask Ken Dorsey, man. I don't know.
And what really killed me was there was 2 minutes. It's not like we were trying to get one last play in before we had to take our last time out to get in the field goal range. There's 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes to go.
Yeah.
So what are we running 0-yard routes for? What does that do?
Oh, it's
just a 0-yard route. Why is that even in the route tree?
Just like when it was 3rd and goal from the 8 early in the game, and we ran Jerome Ford on a lateral out of the shotgun. I'm like, what are you doing? We talk about how hard it is to run down in this area. We suck at running to begin with. He's not the best. I mean, unless he finds the hole, which he struggles at doing. I get the DTR's not good, but like, I'm watching this team that I love. It's my team. I love the Browns. I'm a Browns fan for life. Sad as that may be right now, but it is what it is. And I'm watching my team go out there, and they're not even trying. Like, they do not even want to try to win. And I get it. As fans, yes, that number 3 pick looks nice and everything, but I still want to watch my team do a little bit of fight, have a little pride, because that lack of pride, that losing mentality, I don't want that to carry over into next year. I don't want that to impact the young guys that are going to be on this roster for the next 2-3 years.
I will say this. I don't think that the players on the field have quit. I think the coaching staff have just put in players that aren't good enough to win at this point. You know what I mean?
Okay,
like, I'm watching the guys out there. They're still running hard. The defense is still flying around playing. I mean, once again, the Dolphins get a second half score, but for a bulk of this game, it was a 7 or 10 point game.
Oh yeah,
it was well within reach if we had any kind of offense at all.
Oh, that's an easy win. Easy win with any kind of offense. I think
based on what we're seeing on the field in terms of effort out of the players, like, I think that is the reason why there's no talks of Kevin being fired and he's going to be back. It doesn't look like there is not guys out there, jogging. Myles Garrett is still chasing down Tyler Huntley from behind, full speed. Like, there's still the effort out there. It's just, we took out Jameis and we put in a guy that we know is not good enough to be in the league. Well, that's going to help you lose games. Even if he's trying as hard as he can, he's not good enough. So I think in terms of the effort, that we just emptied the bench and we just said, go ahead and play as hard as you want. We know it doesn't matter. And then we were handed a gift by the Giants.
Oh man, were we ever?
I know. So I guess that's a lot about the game. A lot of people are in here talking about the draft, so we can kind of talk a little bit. So as of now, the the Browns sit at number 3. And I haven't done everything I'm talking about draft wise is all just off the top of my head now. I haven't looked deeply at anybody. It's just based off the college football I've watched and just things like clips on TikTok as I'm scrolling and listening to podcasts, Todd McShay talk, that kind of stuff. So this isn't anything like, don't come at me and say that guy's actually terrible or I don't know yet. Okay. I'm still been torturing myself with watching the Browns for some reason. But there's, for me, a couple different things that the Browns can do that wouldn't anger me, at least just off the top of my head, as we sit here today. I think if you stay in that top 3, you're going to take a quarterback. I think if Shedeur and Cam Ward are available, you can't pass on them. You need one, and your best bet is to have one on a rookie contract. Like that's your best bet.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick because I've now that we've moved up into that top 3, which, a couple weeks ago, I was on this podcast saying there's no way we're getting inside the top 5. I never saw the Giants winning. I played the Colts defense in a league yesterday, and I might lose because of it. I did not think the Giants were ever going to win another game. So here we are. We're up at 3, and, you made the point last week, I think it was, or maybe the week before, about Myles Garrett. Should we trade him and stuff like that? And you said, well, having Garrett on the roster has not, correlated with a whole lot of winning. And what does? It's the quarterback position. And even if neither of these quarterbacks at this moment are looked upon as, a Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels or some of these guys from last year, whatever.
Drake May.
Yeah, Drake May. I knew it was New England. I think until you get the quarterback position figured out, you're not going to win games anyway.
Oh, no, 100%. And here's the thing is, if you're going to take the quarterback, okay, you need to make that decision basically as soon as the season's done and the draft order is set. You need to know this is who we're taking, okay? And then everything you do in this offseason needs to be tailored to it working with him. Don't try to, whatever quarterback you're going to take, plug him into your system and make him fit into your system. Like Jaden Daniels wouldn't work in, 15 different offensive systems around the league. They know they're going to take Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams, like they both have running and throwing ability. And then they go get Cliff Kingsbury,
yes,
a guy who has college concepts in his offense, who can get the most out of his guys. They build the rest of their roster around we're going to run this offense because this is the kind of offense that our quarterback is the most comfortable in. And so we're going to get players that fit this offense to run this offense at the highest level because we're putting so much into this quarterback. That's what the Browns need to do. So I want to get rid of Ken Dorsey. And if that means going back to Kevin running the team and running the offense, that's good. But if you're going to go get Cam Ward, we're probably not going back to 100% Kevin's offense. You need to go find an offensive coordinator that can maximize Cam Ward's strengths. And then everything Andrew Berry does in free agency and the rest of the draft needs to be tailored to optimizing that system around Cam Ward. So, and I'm just using Cam Ward as an example. Okay. Or Shedeur. You need to build it. Like Lamar Jackson, if he gets drafted by a bunch of other teams, he's probably not even still playing. But the Ravens did such a good job of drafting him and then putting him in an offensive system to maximize his talents, especially early when he wasn't a great thrower of the football. And it allowed him to utilize his strengths, improve on his passing. And now, like Lamar still misses layups sometimes, but there's no denying that he's a good throwing quarterback now. Okay, he's above average at passing. And they built an offense around him they maximized his strengths and allowed him to develop his weaknesses into strengths. That's what the Browns need to do. If you're going to take one of these quarterbacks, you have to build around him. And I'm not saying you have to bring him in and start him right away, but he needs to start this year. If you're going to draft Cam Ward, I'm still on board with going and getting a gap bridge quarterback for 1 year in free agency so he can sit. But you need to start putting players on this roster and running an offense that is going to be great for Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders or whoever it is. I just off the top of a couple of things I've said. If we're sitting at 3 and somebody really wants a quarterback and you're not completely sold on one of them, you can't trade. I'm not trading out of like the top 7. you can't trade back out like too far. We need too much talent at the top. You know what I mean?
Well, and there's plenty of
But
teams in that top 10 that are going to be vying for a quarterback, you know. So if somebody does want a guy, we would not fall out of probably the top 7.
Yes. So, but if you, a lot of people are banging the drum to fall. So you trade back a few spots, get a haul, and then I'm saying go get a bridge quarterback, draft Genty, and add lineman and free agency in the middle rounds. And now all of a sudden you got a bridge veteran quarterback who you think who can lead you next year. You got an explosive playmaker at the running back position. You bring back Jerry Jeudy at receiver. You still have David Njoku, and then you bolstered the offensive line and free agency in the second, third rounds of the draft. All of a sudden your offense looks a lot better. I think that's one option. I think another option, this is one I just thought of today. I like Shedeur and Cam Ward. I'm really starting to like how much football Cam Ward has played. Like he played a lot of football. And we see these guys, I mean, Bo Nix, for example, nobody was high on Bo Nix, but he played a shit ton of college football.
Yeah.
And you're seeing, like, then he's not overwhelmed by things. He's seen so much football. He's seen a lot of things. He can process information, and he's playing. If Jaden Daniels wasn't having a crazy season, Bo Nix would probably be rookie of the year.
And Jaden Daniels played a lot of college ball.
Yes. So I'm starting to really like, and not only did he play a lot of college ball, he excelled at literally every single, at all different levels of college football. He started real small, then he goes to Washington State, Division I, but still a little smaller. Then he goes to Miami, you know, like a bigger time program, has one of the best seasons, a Miami Hurricane quarterback's ever had. So I'm really starting to like that out of Cam Ward. And so take him at 3. Use the middle rounds to bolster whatever, take another running back, Genty won't still be there. Maybe you get a Previon Henderson or the guy out of Iowa in the second or third. And then I'm saying in the 4th or 5th, depending on how it's looking, how it's shaking out, take a flyer on like a Dylan Gabriel. So don't just take one quarterback in this draft. I think Dylan Gabriel's the guy from Oregon.
Yeah. So RG3 and Kirk Cousins. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I said. And you bring them in, and you're not just giving it to Cam Ward. You're like, hey, we're drafting you, but we're bringing in this guy too. You still got to come in. You got to prepare. We're not just handing the keys to you. And obviously, it's your job to lose. But I think get a security blanket. Do an RG3 or Kirk Cousins. If you have to spend 2 picks on a quarterback to get it right, who cares? It's clearly the most important position, and it's the position we have yet to hit on. So if it takes two picks in the same draft to get it right, who cares? You know what I mean? And look at the 5th round. If he falls to the 5th, why not take a flyer on a guy who is extremely talented, but just maybe a little bit small? I would do something like that. And then I'm still bringing the bridge. And a couple, like I know Kirk Cousins' name's been thrown out. I've said Derek Carr a lot. Another guy I think could be under the radar that I think is going to be available is like a Drew Lock. Could be a bridge quarterback.
So one thing, Drew Lock, we can talk about that. But another guy that I've been pretty hopeful the Browns might at least have a swinging chance at would be Justin Fields. And I think depending what sort of contract he's looking at, because he's a similar type of quarterback to what you're trying, I think, to establish in your system. If you take a Cam Ward or Shedeur, I mean, more Cam Ward, I think, because
Shedeur's a pretty like a pocket guy who can run, but he's more of a pocket guy.
Yeah, I will say this about these quarterbacks. I know we've been saying it. A lot of people on social media, everyone's this is not a great quarterback class, but it doesn't mean there aren't going to be good quarterbacks come out of this class. It doesn't mean these top 2 guys can't be good NFL starters. So I think if the Browns are up there, I don't hate the idea of taking a shot because you got to try. You have to keep trying until you get it right. I mean, we saw the Cardinals a few years back. They take Josh Rosen, in the top 10, and then turn around the next year and take Kyler Murray and get rid of Rosen. Like, if it doesn't work, you just have to keep going until you get it right. And right now we're in the top 3, likely, or I shouldn't say likely, but good chance we get into the top 2 this weekend. And there's 2 guys there. So it's just, I think
so when I'm looking at, when I'm looking at the draft, it would be the Browns would lose. And it would be very big if the Patriots, it would be nice to get number 1 is what I'm saying, to have your choice. And if it stays as it is and the Patriots have 1, the Titans 2, and we're 3, the only thing I'm a little bit scared about in that situation, and maybe some people won't be scared because they don't want us to take a quarterback anyways, is I think the Patriots will shop that number 1 overall pick because they don't need a quarterback. And then I think somebody would leapfrog the Browns, take either Cam or Shador, or the Titans will take whichever one's left, and then we'll kind of just be left sitting there dry at number 3 without. And then you take best player available. Maybe you go Travis Hunter, you take the kid out, I think it's Arizona. So that, or I don't know if Genty goes in the top 5, but who knows? The edge rusher out of Penn State is another guy I've seen a lot. The corner out of Michigan. But I think this team needs offensive help. I'm probably not going defense with my top 5 pick in this draft.
No, if it's not a quarterback, it's either a left tackle or a running back. Those are the 2 positions we desperately need help at as well. So we'll see what happens here. I am honestly, and I think it was Gage in the chat said, whenever I mentioned I never thought the Giants would win another game. And he said, I don't think the Giants thought they'd win another game. I don't know what happened there, but they gifted us
one. That's a terrible win.
And now we are sitting here actually in serious discussions about, okay, we are in position to take a quarterback in this draft.
So let me ask questions. Why do white QBs get so many chances? Just think Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr has won one more playoff game than Jameis Winston combined. But Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins have played way higher quality football for a longer stretch of time than Jameis Winston ever has.
And Jameis is still around. So is Jacoby.
Yeah, they're like chances. Jameis just started 7 football games and he turned the ball over 19 times or whatever it was. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. But let me ask you then, do you think the Browns can turn it around and be competitive again next year, or is it a full rebuild? Like, do you think if we take a quarterback at 3, it's a full rebuild?
No, I don't think if you take a quarterback at 3 or 2 or 1, wherever we're at, I don't think if you take a quarterback in the top 3 that it's a full rebuild. I think that you have got to get rid of Ken Dorsey. You've got to figure this offensive system out. This season, I can't watch any more of this. I will watch Saturday. I will watch us lose to the Ravens. We will get humiliated, and that's it. I don't want to watch this shit anymore. So get him out the door. But I think with this defense, we still, like I said so many times, we still have the core intact. We can run it back with this defense another year. They played well enough this year for us to win multiple ball games that we just handed to other teams because we suck on offense. If you get the quarterback in here, you get a decent bridge guy, you fix the running game, you add some linemen in free agency, or however they decide to do it. I think they can be competitive, but it's going to matter who they bring in at those positions and who they bring in to construct the offense and conduct this whole thing.
Did you all see Kirk Cousins this season? Yes, there's a reason he's going to be available. I also know that he is, I don't think 100% healthy this year, and I'm not going to hold Kirk Cousins one 5-game stretch against him when he's got a career body of work that has been very above average. So you get him back with a coach who knows his strengths, who's coached him before. You get him a year removed from that Achilles injury. You get him more healthy. You get some of his mobility back. I think he can play better. I am on the side to, when I'm thinking about who we bring in, do you think we bring in offensive? Do you think Kevin's going to go back calling plays? Or do you think I don't mind if he calls plays, but I think it depends on who the quarterback is going to be. And I've just been thinking about possible names. I think there's a chance Steichen could be available if the Colts fire. I think Shane Steichen could be a good offensive coordinator. I think I said it when they drafted Anthony Richardson. I said, this dude's getting people fired. And it looks like there's a chance there's going to be guys getting fired in Indianapolis. Shane Steichen gave Gardner Minshew a Pro Bowl season last season. And this year, Gardner Minshew couldn't stay on the field in Vegas. But he shredded the Browns' number 1 defense last year and was a Pro Bowler. I think Shane Steichen is a very good offensive mind. And I think the organization paid a running back they overpaid a running back who's not that good. And they took a project quarterback at number 4 overall. And then they signed a 40-year-old guy to be a backup who doesn't even play the same style as their starting quarterback. and then wonder why they're not having a great season. So I think Steichen could be a good option. My pipe dream is if the Dolphins miss the playoffs and they were to move on from McDaniels, but I don't think that's going to happen.
What about
but
like
that's
a
just me
Brian
wishing.
Daboll in New York if they decide to hit the reset button?
That's another guy I would consider. I think I talked about him even like a couple months ago when it looked like it was going off the rails there. I think I don't want to go back to 100% of Kevin's offense because if I know we're all crapping on the Browns for making all these changes and bringing in Ken Dorsey, but if everybody remembers, we were all on board with revamping the offensive system. We wanted to see more modern RPOs and read options and pre-snap motion. Like we wanted to see all that. Ken Dorsey wasn't the guy we wanted to bring in. We thought there was way better candidates for the job than Ken Dorsey. So just because I want to get Ken Dorsey out of here doesn't mean I want to just 100% default back to Kevin. I understand that Kevin's offense can be very effective. And if we're going to bring in a veteran quarterback like a Kirk Cousins, then maybe that's the way you want to go. But if we're going to draft a Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, I don't know if I want to just try to plug Cam Ward into a Kevin Stefanski offense. I don't think that maximizes Cam Ward's strengths. I think you got to do like what the Commanders did. And if you're going to draft Cam Ward, then you got to go find your Cliff Kingsbury, a guy who can maximize his strengths. So I don't think it has to be a full-on rebuild, but I do think the coaching decisions you make, and I think you got to they better have the plan now. They better be planning the offseason now so they can hit the ground running.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's why we're seeing. It just feels like Kevin's just not as engaged in the game as what we've seen in years past. And hey, I'm hoping these guys are focusing on what are we going to do for next year because this year's a wash. Like as long as they're planning something, that would be great. Can we fire Ken Dorsey on Sunday? Do we have to wait till Monday? Can we just get rid of him?
I don't think he'll be around long. I don't anticipate it.
Oh man. But the thing is, if we take either of those quarterbacks, we've got to have a running game to support them. You cannot put a rookie quarterback out there and do what the Browns did to all their quarterbacks this year and say, go do it. You're the guy. Go win the game. I understand why they did that with Deshaun because he was supposed to be that guy. He's the veteran. He's the $230 million quarterback. And whenever he couldn't be the guy, we were screwed. So you will not be able to do that with a rookie quarterback. You have to have a running game. It'd be great to do something. I would love to do something similar to what the Lions are doing. Let's look at them as an example where you've got two really great running backs that you can put in at any point in the game and be effective and just maul over the opposing defense that way and then let your quarterback just sit back there and do his thing. The Lions do not put everything on Jared Goff and say, go win us the game. They have such a good team effort on offense every game, and that's why they're playing so well. And I think you got to have that sort of mentality to help a rookie quarterback for sure.
Do you think if we draft somebody at 2 or 3 or 1, do you think that makes them play right away? Or do you think we'll still go the bridge quarterback route?
I mean, we took Baker 1 and still went the bridge. We had Tyrod Taylor. So
different coaching staff.
I'm just saying we've seen it happen in Cleveland before, kind of like that. I would hope they're smart enough to say, okay, we need to at least have another guy in here, a veteran to help. Whether Ward, we draft Ward, he comes in at training camp and they're blown away and say, hey, we have to start him. He's won the job straight up. Okay, fine, that's great, but you got to have another plan in place just in case the rookie comes in and it's a little slow going. We don't want to throw him right out there immediately. Let's get out there, maybe get a few wins in the first 4 or 5 weeks and see where we're at after that point.
No, I completely agree. I think there's some guys that you can start right away, and then there's some guys that you can't. And just because you don't start them right away doesn't mean that they're bust. Some people just develop faster than other people. Like the Commanders would not be going to the playoffs if they weren't starting Jaden Daniels. Yeah. And even though Caleb Williams has obviously struggled at times, I think he's also has like 3 or 4 300-yard passing games, or 4 or 5 300. Like he's also done some really good things this year, and their coaching staff is awesome. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens when he has like a Ben Johnson next year. So I think it just depends. I think it depends on the offense you're going to run. If you're going to go get a coordinator, like I said, who matches the guy you're going to draft, are you going to get other players to plug into that system that make the system run better? Like right now, I think we're running a system with a bunch of mismatched parts. We got linemen out there who are designed for the power run game. We got them trying to do this outside zone stuff. We have them in the shotgun all the time. We have a quarterback who can't play at Kent State. We have running backs who are better suited for off tackle runs, but our line is more suited for inside runs. And it's like a mismatch of parts right now on the offense. And then you have Ken Dorsey calling plays, and the guy in the Discord said it best. He said, it's like Ken Dorsey is just calling plays in Madden. Like he's just like, this is my play sheet and I'm just calling random plays. He said, it's like nothing. He doesn't do anything in the first quarter to set up something in the second quarter. He doesn't do anything in the first half that he can like see how they're going to line up and then adjust to it and come back. It's like he's just calling random plays.
Yeah.
That's the way it seems.
Yeah. I think he's kind of an idiot, honestly. I just, this offensive scheme and game plan, it's an absolute joke. I don't know how to explain it. I've watched Pee Wee football games with more competent offenses being run than what we're seeing on Sundays and Saturdays now with the Browns. But
Aaron Butler, hey Dogs and Brownies, good Ravens evening to you all. Aaron Butler, please, for the love of God,
beat us.
Get a message to the Ravens. Take us behind the woodshed. We'll bend over and take it for 4 straight quarters. Just do us a favor.
Hey,
we will gladly give it to you.
I would say, Aaron Butler, tell the Ravens, don't lose to the Browns again, because remember, you did the first time. So,
yeah,
and you should.
Yeah, we have 3. You guys are 33.333% of our wins this year.
Yep, you and the Steelers. How's that feel?
Give me Winston with a running back and a kicker. Man, you can beat the drum for Jameis all you want, and I was okay to do that a month and a half ago. The Browns have. They said it on the broadcast this week, 20 turnovers in their last 6 games. We're averaging over 3 turnovers a game in our last 6 games.
Jeez.
You can't win football games like that. You just can't. And we can say like Jameis would look at the passing numbers if he had a running. The reason he's putting up the gaudy passing numbers is because he's throwing the ball every down because we have no run game. As soon as you give him a run game, go look at his games again when he played at the for New Orleans, where he had 14 touchdowns and 3. The interceptions were way down, but so was everything else. He was a game manager. They were coaching around him to manage him so he didn't cost him the game with his turnovers. Well, the reason we moved on from Baker Mayfield was so we didn't have to have a game manager and coach around our quarterback, which will be a little segue as we're wrapping up here. I keep seeing all this talk about Baker because he threw 5 touchdowns, and they're saying that's as many as Deshaun Watson threw all season this year, and so many people are dunking on the Browns. There is so much revisionist history when it comes to Baker Mayfield in his time in Cleveland. It is unbelievable to me. And I'm saying this as somebody who, 1, I was excited when they drafted Baker. 2, go back and watch episodes on this show. We went to bat for Baker. Yes, a ton. By the end, we were soured on him. But we defended the crap out of him after his bad season with Freddie. And then we went after anybody who said he wasn't good the year that we went to the playoffs in 2020. But all I had to do was listen to national media people, even Cleveland media people, everybody. Even when Baker was playing well, all I ever had to hear was how he wasn't good enough to get the Browns to the next level. And then the Browns move on from him to go get a guy who 14 other teams were trying to get. So it's not like the Browns were the only team who was out there in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes and trying to get the 14 other teams were trying to get him. Okay. So let's not pretend like we were the only idiots that tried to get Deshaun. And then couple that with the fact that Baker then went to Carolina, a team that can't find a quarterback since Cam Newton, and they cut him mid-season because he was statistically the worst quarterback in football. He was like ranked 35th out of 32 eligible quarterbacks in Carolina. Then he goes to LA. And do they keep him there as their backup? No, they let him walk and draft an alcoholic quarterback out of Georgia instead, a guy who immediately has to go to rehab and never plays for him. And they could have had Baker there. They have an old injury-prone quarterback, and they could have had a high. He only signed for $5 million in Tampa Bay. You don't think the Rams would have kept him for $5 million? He had one place to go, and it was Tampa Bay, and it was because Tom Brady retired. And then when he got there, he was in a quarterback battle with Kyle Trask. Didn't beat him out until camp was basically done. Okay. If the Browns would have brought in a QB competition for Baker, he would have thrown a fit in Cleveland. It would not have been him over. He would have thrown a fit. Baker himself has gone on podcasts and talked about how he needed to grow up, how he needed to be humble. It turns out having 1 foot out the league will do that to you. Okay. Also, getting 3 years older will do that to you. I'm happy for Baker that he's playing well. I still like Baker commercials and Baker interviews and Baker press conferences. But let's not pretend like Baker, he wouldn't have survived the next year. He went to Carolina and was the worst quarterback in football. Every single person who's banging the drum for Baker right now, 3 games into that season, would have been screaming that we needed to get rid of him. He was the worst quarterback in football the year after we got rid of him. It wasn't even close. So we have to stop with this revisionist history on Baker Mayfield. I'm happy for him. He's having a good season. Okay. But he's also still very predictable in terms of, like, you can look at a Tampa Bay schedule and say Baker's going to play well in this game. He's going to play well in this game. He's going to play well in this game. He's going to struggle in this game. He's going to struggle. And you can go do it. I went through it and did that. And they played 8 games against teams with winning records this year. He went 4-4. A couple, in I believe 4 of those games, he threw for 200 yards or less. Okay. And then that's not even counting a bad game against the Niners, who are under 500. So I didn't count it. That's not counting a win they got against the Panthers, where he didn't play very well and he threw 2 picks. So he is who he was here. He is a higher end of the mid-tier quarterbacks, and he's a lower end of the upper tier quarterbacks. He's right there in the middle. Even this year with the good season he's having, he's 16th in QBR. That's literally right in the middle of the league in terms of QBR.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to stop with yes, he's playing better now than Deshaun Watson or any other quarterback on our team. He wouldn't have survived this point. He wouldn't be here. He wouldn't still be on the team right now.
No.
Because even if you're saying it was the injured season, again, the very next year in Carolina, he was laughably bad. A team without a quarterback got rid of him. And I don't even know who they went with the rest of the year.
That's a good point. I don't either. People want to just look at the ESPN stats and say, all right, copy Baker Mayfield, paste on Browns. Look, Browns would be a playoff team if we hadn't cut Baker or traded Baker. And you can't do that. You can't copy and paste what a guy is doing in a different city on a different team 3 years later and just assume the same exact thing would be playing out right now had none of that other stuff transpired, like you talked about, in that 3-year window. And I was talking to somebody else today, and I hear this crap all the time, and it drives me nuts. Because you talk about the revisionist history. People say, oh, well, if the Browns hadn't forced Baker to play injured that whole year, he'd still be here. And every time I see that, I'm like, hold up. Baker Mayfield forced the Browns to play him injured. He did it every week. We talked about this every week that season because we were doing the podcast at the time. This is our 5th year now. We were covering the whole Baker time. And it was nuts because he would go to the media and say, oh, my shoulder's totally fine. I'm making every throw in practice. So we'd come on the show and talk about the upcoming game and say, hey, Baker seems to be doing well in practice. He's talking to the media saying he's good. And then he'd go out and he'd play terrible on Sunday. And immediately after the game, in the post game, he'd say, yeah, shoulder's really bothering me. He knew he was in a contract year situation. He knew he was trying to get that bag of money. And so he was going to make sure he was on the field playing. And it hurt everybody. It hurt the Browns. It hurt him in the short term. But, like you said, having 1 foot out of the league, getting cut by 3 different teams in a calendar year, essentially, and then having to go compete with Kyle Trask on basically like a vet minimum for a quarterback, yeah, that'll humble you.
Yeah. And let's not pretend like we play in the AFC North. Okay. He'd be playing Baltimore and Pittsburgh twice a year. He's down in the NFC South now. He gets to play the Saints, the Panthers, and the Falcons.
Yep.
Twice a year. Like he's not playing in the AFC North anymore. So it drives me nuts. Like he again, I'm happy for him, but you guys, it's wild to me, the revisionist history on Baker Mayfield. And then the last thing I'll touch on is because of that, he came out every time and said, if I didn't think I was the best option for this team, I wouldn't play. But then he went on podcast after we got rid of him and talked about how he wasn't 100% because his shoulder was hurt.
Right.
So he was putting himself over the team by playing himself, like you said, and he was not. He was in the locker room. There were multiple reports from multiple people that he was rubbing people the wrong way in the locker room for calling out Duke Johnson in his salary negotiations, for talking about medical things, for forcing himself to play when he wasn't 100%, and then not playing well enough to play at the level. He didn't want to sit that year because he knew Case Keenum could come in and win ball games. And if Case Keenum came in and won ball games, the Browns would not hand him a contract because they'd say, we won ball games with the backup. Why would we give you $40 million a year? So he forced his hand to play, and it got him cut, like you said, 3 times in a calendar year before he was humbled enough to grow up enough to go down there and win a QB competition and now play great. And I applaud him for that.
Yes, me too.
It's not easy to humble yourself and grow up and and have your back against the wall and figure it out and now play really well. And I'm happy for the guy. But let's not talk like Cleveland Brown, like the Browns front office was the only people in the world that said Baker Mayfield wasn't good enough to be here. The media said it. Our media said it. Fans said it. The Panthers said it. The Rams said it. Everybody said it.
And the Bucs said maybe.
Yes.
They weren't sure.
It drives me nuts.
Yeah, for sure. And it kind of goes back to the talk that we were having about the rookie quarterbacks because, Caleb Williams going to Chicago. It's tough for any quarterback to go to Chicago. Some organizations it's not easy to go be a quarterback and have success for that organization. The Jets is another one. And the Browns are one of those organizations, obviously, because we've got like 40-some starting quarterbacks since 99. It's not easy to come here and be successful and be that guy. We've never had that guy. We still can't get that guy. So, the situation matters for pretty much all positions, but the quarterback position the most. Situation and scheme and coaching and the players around you. Baker's got a lot of good things in Tampa Bay. He, like you said, he put in the work. He did what he had to do to put himself in this situation to be successful, and good for him. But it had to happen this way for it to happen. It was not going to occur in Cleveland.
My favorite thing here is Tampa Bay has played the Lions, 49ers, Chargers, Cowboys, and Chiefs. I know he's 2-3 in those games. Yes, that's what I said. He's 2-3 in those games.
Yeah, aren't they 9-7 right now?
I believe so. They got to win this week, and they need the Falcons to lose, or else they won't make the playoffs. I'm pretty sure. Unless the Falcons losing this past week did it. I'm not sure. Maybe they clinched. I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, I don't watch the NFC South all the time. Yeah. But again, he's in the arguably the worst division of football.
I think for sure the worst.
Good luck with the QB carousel for the next decade. Well, we appreciate it. Go be a Baker Bros somewhere else. Baker's record is 1 game over 500 in the worst division of football since he went there. Again, I'm not. He is who he was at his best here. We watched him play great here. We also watched him not play great against any time we faced the top 15 defense, which is why we moved on from him. Hopefully, maybe he'll play better. Maybe they'll go in a playoff run this year, and then we can talk about good for Baker. Again, we have said in the last 5 minutes, we are happy for Baker. We are just mad at all the people who pretend like this version of Baker is who we had in Cleveland or who immediately left Cleveland. If anybody looks stupid, aren't the Carolina Panthers the last team to have him as a full-time starter? And aren't the Carolina Panthers in that division? So they cut a guy who is now in the division who beat them twice this year. So maybe the Carolina Panthers should be the ones catching the flag, not the team that he hasn't been on in 3 other teams. I mean, come on.
Yeah. And, sometimes these quarterbacks are not their best version of themselves in the first contract, in the first 4 or 5 years of their career. And everyone's talking about Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield were both on the Panthers together at one point, and they cut them both. Sam Darnold was ass in Carolina, and so was Baker. That's why they got cut. It took getting cut, growing up, being a couple years older. Sam Darnold being in an offensive system that just produces awesome quarterback statistics. I mean, performances from quarterbacks in Minnesota, it's a plug and play. Kevin O'Connell's got it going on there. Now, would Sam Darnold be doing what Sam Darnold's doing right now if he were still in New York or still in Carolina? I don't think so. the situation really does matter so much for these quarterbacks. And then also your maturity, you're growing up, getting more acquainted with the league and everything. It's just, it does not click immediately for some of these guys.
But that's the last thing I wanted to get off my chest before we wrap this thing up. I'm not happy for Baker. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Okay. But I digress. We will move on. We will wrap this up. Luckily for us, there's only one more of these left, and we get to turn the page on this season and officially move into postseason work, draft talk, free agency talk, breaking down, prospects and free agency in the draft. So stick with us for one more week. You got to watch one more trash can game to hopefully secure us a top draft pick, and then we have some fun stuff to talk about. So we appreciate you being here. Blake, who you got, Josh or Lamar MVP? It's close. It's very close. I don't know yet. We'll see what happens next week. But they're both playing crazy good. We appreciate you guys being here. Hopefully you guys had a good Christmas. And I've been waiting a whole year to say this. We'll see you guys next year.
Yep. Happy New Year.